Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Denise, Zach, and Gameplan U's Mindset Monday podcast. I'm back. I've been on a little bit of a summer hiatus. Super excited to be back. I have a great guest with me today. If you haven't tuned in before, this is a podcast to help get into the mindset, into the 6 inches in between the ears, which can be the most difficult terrain to navigate when you are an entrepreneur, when you are an athlete, when you are anyone trying to be successful in the world. I try to get into those 6 inches and really talk to people about how they show up to their day. This podcast really helps to bring insight into how entrepreneurs, how founders, how successful people in the world bring success into their life using the strengths that they have mentally. I have an amazing guest on today whose platform is going to expand how we work with athletes in just that way. So I will introduce her in a minute. Gameplan U is an organization. We are a community of founders, startups, executives, and residents of career seekers coming together to support the founders who are developing these next level technologies, these next level businesses, these innovations in the world of sports, really impacting how we consume sports, how we watch sports, how we interact with sports on a day-to-day basis. It is changing minute by minute. Gameplan U is on the cutting edge with these amazing founders who are developing these businesses, these ideas, these innovations, and we support them in their process and provide a community for them to come together, to explore, to network, to get funding, and to really grow their business exponentially. And so I'm just super excited about being a part of Gameplan U, but more than that, today I'm excited about my guest. Efrat Avnor is the co-founder and CEO at Fantastic Athletes Corporation. And I'm going to bring her on now without further ado so that we can really chat with her and learn a little bit more about who she is, what she does, and how she operates with her business. So Efrat, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the
Hello,
Mindset
Denise.
Monday podcast.
Hi, Denise. Thank you so much for having me and for this amazing introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, right? Just a little bit about who you are, but then really I want to really talk to you about how you developed this Fantastic Athlete Corporation and what it is.
Okay, so I'll talk about myself, also about my co-founder partner, which is also my partner in life, Sami Sabri. And so we're original from Israel, which you can probably hear from my accent, and came here to the States about 2 years ago in a very great time, 6 months prior to the pandemic, with the sport industry. So that was a great drill to, try my own mindset, which was fantastic. And coming from Israel, where, there's also a lot of turmoil sometimes and everything, changes happening rapidly. That was something that really, drove us here and to try and do things in sport in a more stable environment where there's a different, I would say, exception of the sport technology. Many of a great solution coming from the sport technology come from Israel. However, the field of opportunities here in the US was much bigger. So a little bit about myself. The first thing that comes to mind is a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. I'm also a mother, and I'm also a partner in life. And coming from a business background, I worked many years in the high-tech industry. I was executive in my last roles, over 20 years, working both in the telecommunication industry and in the gaming industry. So I've gained a lot of experience working multicultural, working continent, many countries, many languages. And that was quite an experience that actually made, I think, me very ready to come and explore this innovation opportunities of myself and my partner and try and do that. So I think that was a great background. It helped me to do everything that I do today.
Awesome. And tell me, what is it that drove you to develop the Fantastic Athlete platform? What was it that made you say, you know what, this needs to be out there in the world?
So it has to link the both. So
Yeah. And maybe, I don't mean to interrupt you, but maybe tell us a little bit about what the platform actually is and what it does as well.
right. So just a minute before that, so as I said, coming from the business world and working over 20 years, I saw something very, I think, interesting. There were projects, and I worked in very successful companies, like the tier one, the best of the best. And coming from there, I was fortunate enough to see how projects that have everything, all the resources, knowledge, money, time, and everything, sometimes succeed, but sometimes fail in a way that wasn't even possible to project. And other times, projects that didn't have that kind of resources, like exceeding beyond expectations. And after 20 something years, I reached a very great discovery that it has to do all with people and leadership and driving people and the mental aspects. And that made the transformation from the business world to somewhere that I wanted to explore how things work. That brought me to the sports industry, just because in sports you can show very fast results that are quantified, measurable, tangible, and that can be unified. And I wanted to prove that the mindset, although we tend to treat it as a black box, isn't a black box, because we're human and we have the same type of pattern thinking, emotions and everything. So to come to the Fantastic Athletes platform and what it does, it's actually, when transitioning to the sport industry and working with the athletes, we've discovered that something is fundamentally missing. Like, there are a lot of technologies, amazing system, really amazing system that covered in the last, I would say, 20, 30 years, a lot of the sports aspects, but mostly concentrate on the physical aspects and skill development. Well, sport and performance, just saying performance and sports come up to mind, have to do with all three aspects, which is also the mental aspect and the IQ of your sports. And this has nothing to do with the physical aspect. So that was the first thing that came to mind. How come this data, this information is not unified, is not really methodical, is not even existing in some of the major clubs, sport education and everything. So from there was like aha moment. Then something else that we saw, and again, from my background in the business, looking at project the way I do, was the second discovery that has to do with the type of data and the source of data. So the source of data is coming, as I said, from outside to the player. Like, it can be very personal, like about the player, but it's not coming from the athletes, from the players. You have all these sensors, chips, biological tests. You have experts from all sorts of field, and they're all providing amazing information about the player. But when you look at things and when you really try to digest what you're having, you can't do it without the participant itself, without the performer.
Right.
We're talking about performance, you need to bring the performer. And everything that is taught today in the world, everything, in every area, always involves the thinking and the understanding of the subject himself. So how come in sports, it doesn't matter what you think about your game, only what others think about your game. So that was the source. And last but not least, the platform has a unique patented type of data that we brought, which we think will revolutionize the way that performance is, and it's the type. So not looking at things only right and wrong, but to look at the fields of opportunities. And this is something that I think
I love this. I love it because in the world of psychology, I was a therapist for 20 years, and anytime an athlete was having problems with the performance that couldn't be fixed with a chip or an athlete or data or information from the outside, they were sent to a sports psychologist, because there had to be something going on with them that was preventing them from being able to do their job and to get better, or to fix a problem mentally and or physically, right? Because they're so intrinsically connected. And the fact that most people were just intimidated by the mind, and they thought, well, there's no way to measure anything. There's no way to patent something. There's no way to put a quote unquote box around how you interact with an athlete's mind. And you weren't intimidated by that. And you dove in and you developed something. And that to me, I think is so incredibly innovative. Because the mind is, like you said before, it isn't black and white. It isn't, necessarily the same as training a muscle to do something the same way every single time. That is part of the process, but there's so many other intricacies involved in it. And the fact that you've been able to tap into something like this is amazing. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you came up with, and I know this is proprietary, so you may not be able to talk about all of it, but can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with that technology, what factors you needed to take into consideration, and how you were able to put it into a measurable, containable system?
Yep. So I'm not going to take all the credit because, as I said, I have a partner here.
Yeah.
Actually, he was the one that came up with the idea to do what we did through the years with athletes and with clubs and with coaches, and just put it into a system. So it happened when it started, when we were in Romania in the World Championship. And he actually saw this performance analyst sitting with their scouting tools and, performance analysis tool, doing their thing. And then he just came to me and started to bug me for 2 days saying, you're such a table girl and everything has to do with numbers with you and everything. Can't you take everything that we're doing and saying over and over and just put it there so they can use it as a product? Because, we can't duplicate ourselves, and they have the system.
Right.
And from his, I think, enlightenment, seeing that, it actually started, that was the point in time. So we're talking about 3 years ago. And that was the point where we understood that it has to be a tool that can be used by everyone. And the vision is to actually give it with no dependency on hardware or budget. So the final idea which we aim to bring to the masses is for every child to be able, with his smartphone or anything, record himself or herself and put it up with no dependency, and have the ability to be trained on all three aspects with professionals across borders, not because there's a pandemic, God forbid, but because there's the opportunity to get people very qualified to help you by watching what you're doing and help you understand it better and share the information. So that was the vision, that the point in time where we came. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the three areas are they're watching themselves physically, they're paying attention to their mental, and what is the third one?
The third one is their sports IQ, which is measured either by the special attribute that directly implicate on your understanding of the game.
Yes.
So some of the attributes are just, understanding what you're doing.
Yeah.
Also our ability from the system point of view to show gradually how you look at your game and how many improvements. So just to make it more clear. So if I'm watching my game and I'm marking these special attributes that has to do with all these areas, might be that my professional coach won't agree with me on the way I analyze myself.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's exactly like in math, where your teacher is looking at what you're doing and saying, now I understand what you get wrong, what you don't.
Yes.
And so what we see is that when you get the professionals to work with their players, at the beginning, there's a 90% difference between what a professional will see on the game than what the player sees on himself. Now, with a matter of 3 to 4 weeks, that's short, we start to see almost zero difference, because once they work with their athletes, understanding how they're thinking, now they understand it better. So this is the second way to measure understanding, by showing that the difference starts to get to zero.
Minimized. Yeah, absolutely. And that is such a critical piece of sports and not something that's been addressed before, really in a coaching mentality, because coaching is about, fix this, fix that, do this better. I don't understand why you're doing that. Why can't you just do this? Not that it's always that way, but it's not necessarily a discussion about, well, how are you viewing yourself and what's really going on in your mind? And you're allowing the athlete to reflect on their own performance in these three different areas. And then the coaches are able to come and say, oh, wow, I had no idea that that's what you were thinking is going on in your performance. And let's fix this together. Now I understand what you're thinking, which is just, I think it's just revolutionary and amazing. And it's something that would take maybe months with a sports psychologist who could definitely figure that out. But it's not necessarily, that's a confidential process that wouldn't necessarily get to the coach.
So here's another thing that you've touched, which is, especially in the mental area, and you probably are more experienced than I am. There should be a unified way for the team on a team level, on an organization level, to see the mental, I would say development, stability, like we unfortunately see with great athletes that started to speak up now in this last Olympic.
Yes.
So when you have an organization and you pay enormous amount of money for these exports, when we talk US major leagues, for example, different major leagues, it's so important for the organization to be able to understand the day-to-day and also to measure it in a unified way and to treat it in a way that it's like really giving both the experts the need, or let's say the professional challenge, to come up with a unified way, with a measurable way. And I think that our tool helps to do it so much easier. And there is room for individualization. So you as an expert, if you have a method that is your own, you'll be able to put your own attributes, but it will be then unified to the whole team.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about that, I say cool, meaning amazing thing about that, is that it puts a spotlight and attention where it needs to be put. And it doesn't really leave room for all of this kind of anecdotal summations from people observing from the outside, because you really, with your technology, you have very specific information that is real time, that is input by the athlete. And we talk about the mental health piece, and it is now becoming more and more an issue. Not that mental health is becoming more problematic, but it is becoming more understood that it is an issue in sports, where before it would have been blamed on a lazy athlete or someone giving up, or their performance just isn't where it needs to be. And now people are paying attention in a way, saying, wow, this is a relevant, real issue that this athlete is dealing with. Their mentality and how they're looking at themselves, how they're observing themselves, how they're experiencing themselves within the sport is impacting their performance and their ability to be okay on the court, on the field, all of it.
Exactly. And I'll give you guys a compliment, because coming to Gameplan U was actually to find some great people that are highly, highly experts in their own fields, but also have an understanding and focus on the sport industry. And I think the US, is and should be a pioneer, not just by the quantity and amount of Olympic medals, but also in its, I would say, education or spotlight, putting it on the right things that athletes should get, that organization should take care of, because no sensor and no chip and no expert is going to talk in your mind when you need it, when you're in the money time. And you have to prepare yourself. And this is preparation and training and practice, and really knowledge that you have to gain through the years, in addition to physically skills and training.
Yeah.
And that's very important. I think bringing that to awareness with a platform like you, with people that are really understandable and experts in sport, was very important for us. So,
well, thank you very much. We really, at Gameplan U, we try to be as well-rounded, holistic, and inclusive as possible in terms of how we look at sports and innovation in sports and the people that we bring into our community. We want to work with good people who are doing amazing things. And the people that we work with is more important than what they're doing 9 times out of 10. Because if they're good people really looking to make an improvement in the world of sports and technology and innovation and wellness, then that supersedes anything that they're doing and really helps to elevate the quality and the output of what they create in this realm and in this part of the world. So one of the things so I want to thank you for being a part of our community because it is meaningful and powerful. And I just see the crossover between what you're doing and a lot of what many of our other entrepreneurs are doing when they're performing, when they're looking at the performance of athletes. I think, wow, wouldn't it be cool if when we're looking at that physical piece, if the mental piece was collaborated with that not only now are we looking at the way you're swinging, but what your mind is thinking when you have that missed opportunity. What is going through your mind
what you see, what do you understand? Maybe understanding the situation is also another layer on how you feel in this situation.
Absolutely. And before it was just, well, we need to fix the swing. We need to fix the swing. We need to fix the swing. Just keep going. And it's almost just keep pushing mentality, which is so important in sports, like resilience and grit, get back up, keep going, keep going. But if there is a malfunction somewhere and we keep glossing over it, eventually it's going to bubble to the surface. Your technology is looking at where those problematic areas might be, what specifically might be going on, and let's address it before it becomes a mountain and before it severely impacts you down the road where you cannot function the way that you need to. And it helps also, I think, with a growth mindset that we learn from our mistakes and that it is not an ego strike. It is learning and opportunity, and that we can certainly grow from any challenges that we have as well.
Exactly. And, we also want people, especially when it's about people. And like you said, sports and athletes are people. And we want to make them really about them.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, and I saw it, I'm not saying that it's everywhere the same. Of course, it's not. So generalized. But a lot of the time, when you have some kind of mental or psychological assistance, a lot of the time it's external stories. And to be able to, for me as a player, to talk about myself, this game, yesterday game, last night, where they here, I had a mental problem. I had a mental blockage. And I need someone to address that. And it's not only happening to me like this week, it happened to me in the last 3 months. And I want someone to address it with a method, to give me a technique. And there are techniques. And not to just, so for, I think for experts, and I think for the whole field of this sports psychology and mental coaching for athletes, to be able to bring their profession into a place where it's very, very professionalized, methodical, unified, is a great opportunity, which we wanted to really bring because of a lot of, sometimes ignorance and sometimes old-fashioned organization or coaches that are blocked because what worked for them is what they want to continue. But you have to expand. You will not accept this in any other industry. You will push your CEOs and your management and your lower management through, development courses and other unique system. And it cannot be that when we come to the sports, it would be even acceptable to say, no, he's an old-fashioned and let's leave it there. It's not. It's not fair.
Yeah. So it really forces teams to look at and elevate the level of their coaching and how their organization works and supports athletes through their development.
Exactly.
I love it. I think it's amazing. I can't wait to see what you all continue to do. I am so excited that Gameplan U gets to be a part of your journey and to walk through this with you and support you in any way that we can. And is there any last advice that you would give to a young athlete out there who may be struggling, who feels like they're just not performing the way, or a coach who feels like there's an athlete that they have that they're struggling with? And what advice would you give them today?
Okay, so it would be two different, I think. Just trying to, pick up my own brain here.
Yeah.
So for an athlete, I would advise to come up with a routine that they don't break. That would be the fundamental structure of their day, because that's like a battery where you start doing things without thinking. Like you wash your face, you don't say, I feel like it or not, right? You wash your face. So to have a type of routine that you succeed no matter what. So no matter what, if it was a good day in practice or a good day in game or something like that, you always have this structure that you completed. And so if you're starting your way as a young athlete, a routine of an athlete is something I would recommend both for athletes and for parents to keep. So the achievement and the battery is always, yes, I did this and this and this, and it's a check. That's a very good start, because it always shows you what you're capable of doing. And then for coach, thank you. And for the coach, it would be a little bit different, a little bit the same, but different, to do a kind of routine with your team. So even if it's young athletes or older, so when you cover a routine, there's always a check, because we need our own acceptance, and we know what we've accomplished and what we've not. And we cannot live only on the high peak moments or on the high anxiety, situation in life. We have to work on the day-to-day basis. So if we had a routine day, if we have some kind of a routine that we've, as coaches, managed, we always know that we covered some areas. And then even that's where I would love everyone to use Fantastic Week, to have some kind of a weekly session where we've explored it, we looked at it, we've developed from it, we learned from it. So it doesn't matter what we do, but we have this in our routine. So I think a routine, no matter what, is something that can help anyone. That would be my first advice.
Awesome. And I think that's not just applicable on the field, but also off the field for executives and parents and leaders and entrepreneurs, right? Having that routine, that mental kind of practice that you have every single day helps you get into a space where you don't, like you said, have to think and have to push yourself.
I'll just say one sentence in that, when we look at the Army, it doesn't matter which country. When you look at the Army, you always expected as a person, as a citizen, to be ready.
Yes.
Why are they always ready? Because they have these things that are always, no matter what, taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that we should do, whether it's, like you said, business or sports or people. If we know that there are things that we've accomplished through the day, we're always ready at a certain level, at least.
Yes. Absolutely.
That would be my advice.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's amazing. And having that mental kind of training, that mental readiness, that mental preparedness that helps you to dive in the way that you need to dive in every single day, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a coach, whether you're an executive, a founder, whoever you are. And so I thank you for that. I think that's wonderful advice. Efrat, it's been a delight talking to you today, and I really appreciate you coming on. If people want to get in touch with Efrat, there are multiple ways you could do it. Number one, this is the website that she and Sammy have worked so hard and put together. They have a YouTube channel that really highlights what they're doing with athletes, with teams, with coaches, and their platform. You can also connect with Efrat on LinkedIn, and you can email her as well. So lots of different ways that you can get in touch. Again, if you want to learn more about Gameplan U, check us out at www.gameplanu.org. Click the like or subscribe button so that you can be aware of all of the amazing entrepreneurs and innovations that we have in the Gameplan U community. I want to thank you again for being here, Efrat. I wish you a wonderful week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next time on Mindset Monday. Take care.
Thank you for inviting me, Denise. It was amazing.
You're welcome.